I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
It is time for happy hour. It is the Man Cave Happy Hour. Whiskey, cigars, spirits, and stories that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
I am Matt Fox. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Matthew.
How are you, sir?
It is time for happy hour.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
It is.
It's not, but you can listen to a podcast anytime, anywhere, or what have you. But here we are.
Here we are once
in
again.
The Man Cave Happy Hour. Please like, subscribe, do all, as you say, do the podcasty stuff.
All the things that you do when you're listening to a podcast.
Correct.
Do them now.
Do them now.
So here's the thing. If we'll revisit that idea at the end, and if we've shared something with you that you've enjoyed, appreciated, or learned from, do us a favor and then subscribe and tell a couple friends.
Correct. And then they'll tell a couple of friends,
and that's all.
Yeah.
And that's part of the mission of the Man Cave is making friends.
Yes. How many friends did you think you'd have when you started the Man Cave?
I had no idea, but we keep on making more and more friends.
We do.
And then the friends that we make get to meet each other.
Yeah.
And then there's really great connections, and it's fun today because what we're doing is we want to thank our sponsor, Joe Louis Bourbon, and just Joe Louis is making the world a happier place.
He did when on his rise to fame.
He did. He was so
during
generous.
His boxing career and all the other things that he did as a golfer, and he was an equestrian as well. He did so much in his lifetime.
So generous, and today we're doing some Joe Louis Bourbon, and we wanted to make up a cocktail. And when we go cocktails, we have a few go-to people. We got our bartender Tara, and then we were looking for something really flavorful.
Right.
Where do we go, Matthew?
We go to a flavor journal with Sara Alford from aflavorjournal.com.
Sara. And also with us is Tanya Cole. Tanya.
From Joe Louis Bourbon.
Yes.
My goodness.
Hey, guys.
So we have friends all over the place.
So we made friends, and then we introduced these guys because we were plotting and planning this cocktail for today. And it turns out you guys are connected in some way as well.
That's right. We're part of Rock Chalk Nation. So if you don't already know, then we're here to inform you of that.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
There you are. There you have it.
When you guys came in today, you said, what did you guys say to each other when you first came in?
Rock Chalk.
Rock Chalk. Oh, all right. Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah. So
national basketball champions.
There you go.
But we're mixing up a cocktail. We tasked Sara with some Joe Louis. We sent her a delectable bottle of some Joe Louis Bourbon. That's
Thank you, Tanya, for that.
Got her connected on that, and then we wanted to come up with a nice happy a cocktail.
Yes.
In the spirit of Joe Louis. And so Sara, what did we come up with?
So we came up with something that I think is kind of easy because it should use a lot of things that you should just already kind of have in your bar, hopefully. But we're going to use the Joe Louis Bourbon, of course. And then we made just a brown sugar simple syrup. So rather than using like granulated sugar, it's almost richer and it has a kind of like a molasses kind of note to it because there's brown sugar in it. And then we've got fresh orange juice, fresh lemon juice. Sorry to speed you through that.
They're not juiced yet, but there's an orange here, and then there's a lemon here. We're going as fresh as you can get.
I like it.
That is, and that's something that we've learned from our friend Tara, and then from you, Sara, as well. That the freshness counts.
It really does.
Taking a little extra time to make those ingredients or do it fresh, it really makes a huge difference in your cocktail.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's pre-processed or what have you, and it's fine. But if you really want something that's going to tickle your fancy and your palate, if you will, stick with the fresh stuff, right, Sara?
I completely agree. It is a game changer because I feel like sometimes when you have the stuff that's bottled or whatever, like it just doesn't taste as good, So yeah, fresh is always best for sure.
Amen.
It does. So Tanya, before we get into, it might be in the boxes down below. Before we get into mixing up this cocktail, is there any news on the Joe Louis Bourbon front? Any new states? Any new developments with Joe Louis Bourbon?
No new states. We're just rocking it in both Kentucky and Michigan, selling lots of bourbon, which we're excited about.
It's fun watching the website, the Joe Louis Bourbon Facebook page. Really active, and it's what are people going to find when they get to the Joe Louis Bourbon Facebook page?
Well, you're going to find a lot of our new accounts. Tara's been working hard down there in Kentucky, so you're going to see a lot of places where you can buy Joe Louis Bourbon, either outright with the bottle or at the bar. You're going to see a lot of recipes on there. And so in the next couple of days, we should be seeing Sara's recipe. If you don't get it today, then don't fret, don't worry. It'll be up on our Facebook page.
Awesome.
And you'll see a lot of history about Joe Louis and Joe Louis Bourbon. So come visit us there at the website, joelouisspirits.com, and our Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter.
So anybody who's watching this on YouTube or listening to the audio podcast at a later date, you can scroll down to the notes. There will be a link to all the Joe Louis sites, and there'll be a link to Sarah's A Flavor Journal as well. And then the recipe, we'll have the recipe down in the show notes.
Yay.
For the cocktail we're about to mix up. Drum roll, please. Sarah, what did we name this cocktail?
The brown sugar bomber.
That's
right?
it.
I love it.
Joe Louis Bourbon, brown sugar bomber. I'm pretty happy about it's because it's got brown sugar in it. It's like, what do you call that? A dog. It's why? Because it's a dog. I don't know. It's got brown sugar in it.
It's easy to remember.
We really
That's right.
ourselves on this one, Sarah. But it works. Tanya, what do you think about the name?
I think it's phenomenal. I mean, that brown sugar is picking up on those caramel notes that are already in the bourbon there. So, it just fits. It fits, Sarah. You're simply a genius.
Just hope you like it.
All right. So Tanya, do you got the fit? Because I don't know, Sarah, if you got to the bitters, right? Because it calls for 2 different bitters, right? It calls for the orange and then just the aromatic ones, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. I don't know if you mentioned those. Tanya, do you got all the fixins?
I do have fixins, but, I don't have all the fresh fixins. So I'm going to have kind of the substandard cocktail, but I'm okay with that. Literally, I ran through the door 20 minutes ago out of Atlanta. So the one thing that I appreciate about Sarah's recipes is that literally you could run through the door, have that recipe memorized in your head, and then whip it together real quickly. So I have the simple orange, not so fresh orange juice. And I've got some lemon juice here too that I can whip together my cocktail with. So
perfect.
Excellent. I'm going to, what is it? So these are a little bit chilly, but do you guys, when you use fresh fruits, do you kind of make them a little bit soft or let them sit for a few before you use them in a cocktail?
Yeah, I kind of like roll them. And
give them a little roll there. If somebody's watching the video, you can see that we're kind of giving the
we're massaging
giving the fruit a little bit of a roll. Rolling. Chicken wire. Why is there chicken wire? Okay, so Matt, I gave you a knife.
Yes, you did. That was very dangerous, by the way.
And a cutting board, and good thing your phone's right there. That's going to get all greasy and get gooey.
I just put it over there.
That is fantastical. All right, so
when you develop this cocktail, I want to know. Yes. How many different iterations did you make of it before you decided upon this one? And how many times have you tried it yourself?
So this was the 4th version, technically. But it was all kind of the same ingredients every time, just different amounts, basically, that went into each one. So I've had this one twice now. Well, 3 times now. So, but yeah, it took about 4 tries to make sure that it was exactly how I wanted it to be.
So I have yet to try it yet because, I like to be surprised. I like my palate to kind of be surprised when it comes to things like this. Jamie, did you mix something up yourself?
I cheated last night, and I cheated last night, but I didn't use the fresh fruits. I have, I in my fridge, we have some, from concentrate, lemon juice, from concentrate, lime juice. And so I cheated, and I was like, because I had to do the brown sugar, and this was fun because the brown sugar, because Sarah, you said you don't necessarily, because when you make simple syrup, you take like equal parts water and sugar, and you boil them down. As Matthew's squeezing out,
Working on it.
well, you're gonna need. Are we gonna double it up?
Yeah, we're gonna double it up.
So you'll need one. All right. So, but Sarah, you normally you boil it down to make the simple syrup, but what you suggested for creating this brown sugar syrup water was just to use really, really hot water and combine the two and stir them. Is that because the brown sugar melts easier or something, or?
You could do it either way. To be honest with you, I've been making a lot of syrups lately, and I find it's just easier. I have these little tiny like mason jars, and so I'll just put whatever, the brown sugar or the sugar in it, and then do equal parts hot water, and then just shake it until it all dissolves together. Because I find that it actually still blends really well together, and it's far less like you don't have to clean a saucepan or anything. So
right.
You know what
how long does that simple syrup keep in the fridge? Because that's what I thought was ingenious. I mean, your recipe, I think, calls for like a quarter of a cup and then equal parts water. And then once you're finished with that, since you're only using, I think, about an ounce or so for this recipe, you've got a little bit left for a few more cocktails. So how long does it last in the fridge?
So it should last for a couple of weeks, but I also sometimes add just like a little bit, like a half a teaspoon or teaspoon of vodka, because then it extends that shelf life, especially if you ever infuse it with like herbs or something. So, but it should last, I would say, like at least 2 weeks with the brown sugar.
Interesting.
That hint with vodka is pretty valuable there. I hadn't heard that before.
If you make a lot, it lasts you forever.
Here was me cheating it out, making the whatchamacallit, the brown sugar. My coffee pot. I have a coffee pot that does the pods, but it doesn't have a whole reservoir, so you got to pour in the amount of water that you're gonna process for that thing. So there you go. So I just put in I did a half cup. So I did a half cup of water and then a half cup of brown sugar, and I put the brown sugar in a big coffee cup, and then I just ran the water through the coffee maker, and it made it nice and hot, but it wasn't quite boiling.
Thanks, boys.
And then it was great because the brown sugar was in the cup already. I was like, oh, I wonder how much I'm gonna have to stir this up. I put the spoon in there; it was almost already diluted. It was it was great.
That's really smart.
I was feeling so MacGyver and proud of myself. It was it was crazy. So, all right, so Sarah, let's walk through this recipe. What do we need in the Joe Louis Bourbon brown sugar bomber?
So for 2 of them, we're going to use, well, do you want me to do 1 or 2?
You can do 1. You can do one, and Matt will
I'll
work
just
the
double
math
it.
and double
I can math.
Do the math.
So 2 ounces of bourbon.
All right.
Go ahead, Jamie.
So, all right. We'll start with the bourbon. Oh no, because you're using the cup. No, that wasn't a full.
I'm working on it. I'm just trying to.
If you have a jigger, I want to ask, if you have a jigger,
do that.
Then what side are you using, and then how many times are you filling up your jigger?
I think it should be the longer side is usually an ounce. So a couple of times on that one.
Okay.
I think Tanya, if you're holding up your jigger, I think that's 1, and then the big side is 2.
Is it? Mine might be smaller. But
so I have if anybody's watching on the videos, but I just have the cap from the shaker, right? And so I just use that as a 1, right? And so I go from there. That I think it's actually a little more than an ounce.
Yeah. The past few drinks we made with that, it was a little bit boozy.
So, but it's like, so if it's 1, then it's then it's the same measures. It's just, I guess it might make a difference with the bitters because it's like 2 dashes of each, right. And if this is more, we might need a third dash just to balance that out.
Right.
All right. So
you want to pour?
Oh, I'm pouring the Joe Louis Bourbon into a shaker. I think it might be too much for these cups. We might have more. I got the small rocks glass here, and I put the huge cube in it.
Yep.
So, all right.
So, Sarah, with regards to Flavor Journal, you've actually been pretty not aggressive, but you've been pretty active on your social lately. What is going on with the Flavor Journal that we want to pay attention to in the coming weeks?
Well, I have a lot of I would say I've been focusing a lot on like more cocktail recipes, especially ones that are kind of like fruit and herb forward, just because I'm excited to like plant things again. Even though the weather tonight, by the way, I don't know about where you guys are at, but it's gonna get wild tonight.
Yeah,
So it's gonna be interesting. But just a lot more of the like small batch recipes coming out, primarily for 2 people. I've got a couple coming out that are a little bit larger, but and some wine pairings are coming too, so that's kind of exciting.
Nice.
Yeah. So just still kind of trying to crank out as many recipes as I possibly can, and a lot more cocktail focus and wine pairing focus. So
fair.
Sarah, do you mind going back and talking a little bit more about your small batch recipes? Because again, I thought that was another ingenious idea, because I'm an empty nester, and one of the biggest problems that I have here is, making soup for 2 to 3 days, not 2 to 3 people, and wasting lots of food, So this notion of you curating small batch recipes is perfect for someone like me as an empty nester, or someone who just is, maybe living alone or with someone else. Tell us more about that, and like, how do you tighter those recipes so that they work and they're still flavorful at the end of the day?
So kind of same position, but like I'm one of those people, I'm really, really bad with leftovers, and it's just me and my fiance that live together, and he's also not great with leftovers. And so I would keep finding these recipes online that were for like 6 to 8 servings or whatever it was. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to eat that much. And there's no way that it's ever going to like actually be eaten at any point. So, I just kind of started taking some recipes that I was making a lot, and then just thinking about like, how can I scale this down to a point where it makes sense for just 1 serving for 2 people, or like 1 person, just a couple of servings. And so I just kind of kept playing with that and like trying different versions. And I think sometimes a little like overboard with flavor, but I love it. Like, I don't like bland anything. I'm like, let's just throw in as much as we possibly can and make it like count, if you're going to do it.
Right.
So it just kind of like kept evolving from there. I had a few successes, and I was like, this is a thing. And I didn't really see a lot of people doing that, because every time I would search for, soup or anything, it was like always a big batch. So
you're so right. You're so right.
And Tanya, thank you for that question. Being an empty nester myself, my kids are in their 20s. They're out, they're doing their own thing and flourishing. But cooking for a family of 5, and then all of a sudden they're gone. It's like, what am I going to do with this 2 weeks from now? So even what you said earlier, Sarah, with adding vodka into the brown sugar mixture, it'll help it keep. I had no idea, right? Yeah. But so these little tips that you bring to the table are just absolutely fantastic. So thank you for the question, Tanya, and thank you for your knowledge, Sarah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So Jamie's adding bitters. He put the brown sugar mixture into it already. Now we're doing the bitters here.
All right, and then we put Sarah, run through because we got sidetracked. So run through the recipe again, just because I think I have everything in there. So just stem to stern, what should be in my mixer right now?
So you should have, I think I wrote this down wrong. Sorry. No, I did it right. Okay, sorry. So you should have, for the two of you to share, you should have 4 ounces of bourbon, 2 ounces of the brown sugar syrup.
Correct.
And then 1 ounce each of the orange juice and the lemon juice.
Correct.
And then 4 dashes each of the orange and then the aromatic bitters.
We did. And then I gave it 1 extra dash because I think our measure was big. So I think our measure for those other portions were big. All right. Oh, I'm smelling this. This is
I can smell it. I squeezed the fresh juice and my hands are nice and citrusy at the moment. So
and in homage to you, Sarah, I had to find one of my, dehydrated orange slices and my little. Isn't that cute?
Yes, I love that so much.
You've got to visit Sarah's blog. She has the most gorgeous images of her food recipes, her cocktails.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I was like, I've got to do this.
That's what I was saying. I was saying the photography on your website is stunning. It really is. We talked about that.
Like the lighting is like your lighting is always perfect. Even the lighting you have right now, for those that are watching on the Facebook Live, just the sun, the way it's hitting you behind you, it's like you have a place for everything. It's amazing.
Thank you. I tried to make it like not in my eyes tonight, but I don't know.
Right. And so just since you're so good with tips, for those of us that want to be, partially Insta worthy, I know that we could never match what you're doing on your blog.
Good.
How can we come up with like the perfect photo of our cocktail? I mean, after all of this work, I know that we want to share this on our social media pages. So how can we make that photo of our cocktail look fabulous?
So I think I always use natural light for everything. And so I think if you're just like not in like a weirdly lit situation, if you're near a window, if you're outside, whatever it is, like just kind of like actually looking at the cocktail and being like, oh, it looks really nice in this specific light, because it can hit it in so many different ways. And I think that like makes or breaks a picture personally. So that's just, I think my biggest tip probably would just to see like what kind of light you're in. And then as long as like the colors are as natural looking as possible, then people will be like, oh, I get that. Like I know what that is immediately. So I think that makes a difference too. And natural light.
You need to use filters if you find the right lighting.
I don't think so. You can if you want to, but I think that if you are just in a really natural environment that you don't really need to.
But nice.
I think that's always important. I always stress, because I teach yearbook and newspaper, and that's a big part is the visuals to go along with it. And I always tell my kids the flash is the devil. You want to stay away from it. The flash is flash is evil. The natural light is so much better. And then thinking about the backgrounds too. They always got to stand the kid in front of the white cinder block wall, in front of the lockers. You got to keep in mind your background when you're shooting.
Right.
stuff.
I always got picked last. Stand up against that brick wall.
Yeah, that's it. All right, I think we're done. I think this is poured. This is nice. This is the coloration on this is not as dark as the one that I made last night.
So it's got a really nice and caramel look to it as far as the color goes on it.
Right.
And when you nose it, you definitely know that it's a bourbon drink, but in the same token, it's going to really hit your palate in such a nice way, and that citrus is right there.
Yeah, I'm diving in. I'm going in.
Go for it.
Very nice. Cheers. You forgot that though. Cheers to you, Sara.
Cheers, Sara. Cheers.
I'm just too excited to try
exactly.
this.
Oh, wait a second.
That is okay. Wait, hold on a second here.
Wow, it's like the orange and the lemon are having a party on my tongue.
They really are.
They're drifting back and forth. The fresh, because I said I made it with fake stuff last night, and this is exponentially better. Yeah, the fresh makes it.
Okay. And so on your blog, Sara, you have about 5 different bourbon drinks, I think, on there.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Yep.
Sounds about right. Can you give some examples of what other drinks that you have on there that might go well with Joe Louis Bourbon? I know this one was developed particularly for this bourbon. Are there other recipes on there that I might be able to try as well?
So I think the first recipe that we did together was called the Man of War cocktail. And it's somewhat similar, but it has like Luxardo cherry syrup or juice in it. And I think that would be a nice kind of like rich, I don't know, component that would go with Joe Louis too. And then we actually did one just for the Man Cave happy hour called the Witty Comeback. But I think that would also be a perfect recipe for Joe Louis Bourbon. So either one of those would be, I think, winners for sure.
Love that.
Yeah.
Or I do one with grilled peaches too. Sorry to just interject that, but that one would be really cool. I think, which is an older one that I'm going to redo soon, picture wise. But I just grill some peaches and then muddle them and then combine them with obviously bourbon and some other ingredients. So I think the notes in Joe Louis would be awesome with peaches too.
I think so. This Georgia girl would love that.
Yeah,
really. No, also on your blog, I noticed that you talked a lot about your wine pairings. I mean, because I know that you have a fund of knowledge about bourbon and vodka, but like wine seems to be your thing as well in terms of pairings. Have you thought about doing like your cocktail pairings with specific dishes?
I would love to go that route. I think that would be a really, really cool thing. And I think that it's underutilized, especially on like a social space or the internet or whatever. I think that people don't really know, maybe because the resources aren't there, like how to pair just really, really cool flavors and cocktails with the dishes that you're eating. Like cocktails don't have to be just for before dinner or for after dinner. You could absolutely eat them with anything or drink them with anything that you're making. And I think it'd be like an entire experience, So I would love to venture into that. I think it'd be fun.
Absolutely. I think that would be helpful because I think a lot of us, either you're doing it standalone or if you're trying to make a pairing, then you aren't really quite making like maybe the best choices. I know that Joe Louis Bourbon goes really well with feta cheese on a salad.
Oh, really?
Nice. Think about like pairing salad and bourbon and feta cheese, but it is phenomenal. And it definitely raises the bar when it comes to eating like your first course of a salad.
That's awesome. That's a really cool pairing. I actually have a salad coming out. I did like a whipped feta sauce.
Ooh.
So it has a little bit of like olive oil, a little bit of whipped cream cheese, but mainly feta. And I think there's like oregano and lemon juice and salt and pepper in it. But then kind of like layering that on a plate with heirloom tomatoes and then arugula that's just tossed in olive oil. And I think that would be an awesome pairing with.
That would be awesome. And I know that you are also phenomenal with making like meatballs. I think that's going really well with like a lamb meatball or something like that with that as well.
Totally. And maybe have like some feta or something because I did a turkey meatball with the feta sauce, but having like a mint in there too, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the lamb at least, I think that could be a cool like all around kind of flavor pairing.
What are some
I like it.
I know I do too. I'm already like planning in my head. I'm figuring out how I'm going to use your blog to my personal benefit, though. I mean, we want to share, of course, with the listeners, but for my benefit as well. I think when I first met you, I was intrigued with your garlicky mashed potatoes. I was like, any girl that loves a ton of garlic and mashed potatoes, she's my girl. You also really love cheese. Tell us about some of your favorite recipes. Of course, all of them. Whatever some of your most favorite.
Some of my most favorite, honestly, the one that I make more than anything else are my chocolate chip cookies. I really, really love them. I also make every single like holiday or whatever. I have these garlic and herb dinner rolls that I just love. And they're small batch. I think I make like 8 of them or so, 8 to 9 of them. So there's not like the gigantic, like 2 dishes, whatever. But I love those. Honestly, but everything I've been making this year, I've been really, really happy with. So I've tried to lighten some things up because a lot of it's been a lot of heavy comfort food. I love doing risotto. Those are definitely some of my favorites. There's like it's a very Americanized version, but there's like a chicken bacon cheddar risotto. And I have made that quite a few times. It's really good. But I don't know. I like to keep it exciting, and I guess there's a lot of favorites that I have, but they're usually like carb and cheese oriented if I really love them.
Right.
I don't know about you, Jamie, but I think I just gained 10 pounds in that conversation.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Sarah,
why we
what's
only get a small batch so that we don't have to keep eating.
Right.
A little bit, all in moderation.
Right.
Chocolate chip cookies. I want to get back to the chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, and bourbon goes really well with chocolate chip cookies.
Is there a twist? Is there a Sara Flavor Journal twist on your chocolate chip cookies, or are they standard?
No, there's maple syrup in them.
See?
Okay. I knew there had to be.
That's a curveball.
You said what about bourbon now?
They'd be really good with Joe Louis Bourbon.
I've tried chocolate chip cookies with Joe Louis Bourbon, and they turned out really, really well. You might want to try it.
We've paired bourbon in the past with Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, we did a whole Girl Scout cookie bourbon party. Yeah.
And it was the Samoas kind of stood out because they got that coconut caramel.
Yeah, they're the best. Yeah.
So
they won't stand up to Sarah's cookies though. I'm sorry,
No,
Girl Scouts, but like that's not the same. It's like fresh oranges and then like my orange juice. That's not.
I love Simply Orange though.
Yeah,
it works. It totally works. Though.
That's true. I do have Simply Orange.
Well, so enjoying this, I went back to the shaker for a second pour on the Joe Louis Bourbon Brown Sugar Bomber here. Very nice. And the thing about Matt and I, we found this during the pandemic, and we were doing the Man Cave Joe Louis Bourbon happy hours. Yep. We did several cocktails, And Joe Louis stands up in a cocktail.
It does.
It still comes through, because sometimes a bourbon can get lost in the cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
And the Joe Louis profile, it works well.
Yep.
It works well for cocktails.
Even on the nose,
in my opinion,
in this cocktail, even on the nose, it's still, it's that corn forward feel on the cocktail itself. So it does stand on its own.
Tanya, off the top of my head, I don't have it. Do you the mash bill? Do you have that at the top of your head there?
Oh gosh, I think it's like a 60. I don't have it off the top of my head,
right,
but it's
perfect.
like it's definitely corn heavy. Next to malted barley and rye.
Right.
That's in there. But it certainly picks up on those citrus notes that are in there as well.
It does.
And I think that little peppery aftertaste kind of gives it just a little tiny little kick at the back end. Not too much, but just enough to lift it up. So I love the choice of ingredients, Sarah, and why you chose like the lemon and orange inspiration. I know that we had Average Joe Bourbon do a review, and he picked up those two particular notes on his review, which a lot of people don't. So I was surprised to see that when you developed the recipe, and I was like, well, she's got him there too. So
awesome.
Works perfect with Joe Louis Bourbon.
So the mash bill, I have it's at 66% corn, 14% rye, and then 20% is imported malted barley.
Okay.
So Sarah, when you're looking at a cocktail recipe, do you actually pay attention to the mash bill and then how to really combine it with some other foods?
To be very honest with you, no, I have not.
No,
okay.
that's
right.
the
so
thing.
you just taste it and
Yeah,
you say, where am I going to go with this?
Yeah, so it's all palate based. I love that it's all palate based, and you're just kind of trial and error, research and development and what have you. That's the most fun.
It is actually fun.
Some of my favorite R&D. Peter. Yeah, Peter chimed in. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
66, 14, 20. Yes, we got it. So it's like, if there was only a device somewhere would allow us to access all the information on the planet.
All the numbers.
So fair
fun.
play. Sarah, once again, home run on this one. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing your time and making us recipes. Thank you very much.
Your talent was much appreciated.
Just thank you for doing this with me. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So Tanya, we're doing podcasty stuff right now. You host, besides being a wonderful representative for Joe Louis Bourbon, you host a podcast yourself. What is the name of that podcast, and where can people find it?
Yeah, it's The Making of Champions. You can also find on the Joe Louis Bourbon Facebook page. Interestingly enough, I'm going to be talking to Melody Connor, who's a chef, on the next episode, talking about those people who are, doing extraordinary things that the average person cannot necessarily do. So I'm glad to kick it off here on Man Cave Happy Hour with Sarah, and then we'll have another conversation with Melody. So she might be actually listening in to you, Sarah, tonight. But I know that we're excited to include those that are food and drink minded on the show as well.
Excellent. And Tanya, you actually been hosting some tastings of your own recently. Is that correct?
I have hosted a few tastings, yes, but I like to participate in them more. Just to be honest.
No, we all love to participate, if you will.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Both of you, your time is so appreciated. Is there anything that you would like to share with everybody before we say our final cheers for the evening?
I don't have any.
Sarah, I want to know this particular drink, the brown sugar bomber, and your blog. Who is this for? Who's your audience?
I guess anybody who, I would say, like, audience wise for the food portion of it is definitely like empty nesters or people that are just kind of like, like maybe like out of college and living alone or living with a significant other or a roommate. But I think for the cocktails, it's really people who appreciate a good cocktail, but want to make them at home. Yeah. And I worked in food and beverage forever. So I've been around a lot of people that were like really, really talented at what they do. So I always, whenever I like try to develop a recipe, I try to think of like, what would those people, appreciate, and what do I appreciate? And so I think that all of us are very like-minded in that sense. So I think that's probably who I try to target with these specific cocktails.
Great question.
Phenomenal. I know it also appeals to the person who's running in from work with only 15 minutes or so to be on a podcast and can remember a recipe and whip it together and have an evening celebration of their own without too much fuss. So I really appreciate that, Sarah.
And no mess. There's virtually no mess. We were able to make it through this evening on this cocktail with no mess.
I splashed a little of the bitters. I got a little splashy on the bitters, but besides that, it was pretty unscathed. Yes.
Yeah, it worked out well. Two guys, in a room making a drink, and we barely made a mess. That's not bad.
Yeah. There's no sink around. There's like if it goes awry, it goes way awry really fast. So
excellent. So, ladies, again, thank you for your time. Appreciate both of your talents and everything that you bring to the table. And if there's anything that we can ever do, please let us know. We are huge fans.
All right. So people finding out information, they can go to joelouisspirits.com. We want to thank Joe Louis for sponsoring the Man Cave. We truly appreciate the fellowship there. joelouisspirits.com, a flavor journal to get connected with Sara and all the delectable, wonderful cocktaily and foodie things that happen there. And it's really and it's Sara, the photography. We're talking about the photography. The writing is good as well.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
We mentioned that before. I enjoy the writing. It's very conversational, but it's your voice really comes through. I like your writing. I said that before.
Thank you.
But so a flavorjournal.com.
If you've listened to the podcast, you've heard how Sara speaks and what she talks about.
Yep.
But then you go to her blog, she writes the same way she sounds. It's just amazing how those two come together.
That's awesome.
So we made a deal with people at the beginning. We said if you found something entertaining or informative, that at this point you would jump to your podcast listening app and collect, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and the most importantly, tell a couple friends to join us here in the Man Cave. We would truly appreciate it. We would appreciate that as much as we appreciate Tanya and Sara and you guys hanging out with us. Matthew, I appreciate you as well.
Jamie, I appreciate you and your friendship and the camaraderie and podcast your voice.
So there you go. Fair play, ladies.
Cheers.
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 Don't go anywhere.